Hey friends, today I'd like to show you how you can use price tables for your price calculation. And basically a price table is built of this column here where you can define all your products, and you got this row there where you can define all the quantities. So for example, if you want to buy product B and you want to buy 60 pieces, then you would probably take a look at this row here. Then you would go into the quantity list and you would take a look on those numbers here. And if you want to buy 60, you would say, okay, 60 is less than 100, so we don't get a price of $35. So we take a look at this 50, and 60 is greater or equal to 50, so that means we get those $40. So if I do that manually, you see that could take a pretty long time, and especially if you have a lot of products here and a lot of quantities, then it's even harder. And today I would like to find a way how we can do that automatically. So let's go. Okay, I prepared this little calculation field down here, and we want to be able to choose our product in those cells. Then we want to be able to define some quantities here, and we want to get back the price per piece and the total price. So I would like to start by defining some drop-down menus here. So we want to be able to choose from all the products we defined here. So let me select this range, go to data, go to data validation, and then we can click here on this little button, select data range, and then select all the products or the range where we want to define all the products. Then we go to OK and go to save. And now you see we have those little arrows here, and if you click on them, you will see that all the products we defined here are in this list. And if I add a new product, for example, product D, then we have this one also in here. That's pretty good. So let me select it again, go to fill color and make it light blue. And the reason that I do that is so that I can immediately see that this are drop-down cells. So all the white cells are cells where you have to, or where you can put in data, and the gray fields are fields where we have formulas or headings. So I think that makes pretty much sense to get a better overview of the sheets and where to put data in and where not. All right, the next thing, we want to now choose a product and we want to find a quantity. We said in this example 60 pieces. Now we have to find a good function that brings the proper value into the cell. Let's do it. There are several ways to solve the problem, but I guess the two best options are either VLOOKUP or the index function. And both work pretty well, and VLOOKUP is probably a little bit more popular, but today I want to show you the index function. So let's remove the VLOOKUP. So let me type it in here. Let's start the function by typing the equal to. Then we write down index, open the bracket, and now you see it's asking for a reference, for a row, and for a column. And the reference here, you have an example that this is a range, and then we have to put in two numbers for that range. And so that means the index function actually is working that way. You have to define a range where you want to get data from. So in our example, we want to choose a product, we want to define a quantity, and for that we want to get back any of those prices. So let me mark that green. So that means this is our reference or our range where we want to get data from. And now you see that every range has a specific number of rows and a specific number of columns. So let me remove those fields here that we can see that. So for example, if I go into this matrix or range and I say, give me back the row 2 and the column 4, then I would get that 40 here, right? So let me try that out. I put in equals to index, open the bracket, and now I choose that range. I press F4 to fix that range. And now I type in a comma. If you don't use an American settings, you probably have to type in a semicolon here. And then we have to define the row. I said we would like to take number 2 and then comma again, and the column is 4. And now let's test it. I close the brackets, enter, and you see we got that 40 back. So now you see how index is working, but we don't want to define the row and the column manually. We want to do it automatically, right? And to do that, we want to use the match function. And this is what we go to do now. As we have learned, for our index function, we need a row and a column to get back the exact value. And in our example, we used number 2 for the row and number 4 for the column, which gave us back $40 here. And now we want to create two match functions so that we get back the same values right here. So let me type in equals to match, open the bracket. And firstly, we want to define the row. So we have to define a search key first. And to define our row, we need the product. And the product is here. So let me click here to define the search key. Let's go for a comma. And then it's asking for the range. So that means where do you want to search the search key. And we have to define this range here. And it's important if you combine match and index functions that the height of this range is exactly the same as this range of the index. So let's fix it with F4, comma, and now it's asking for the search type. And if you search like a word that's exactly in here, so you want to get back an exact match, then you can choose 0. That's the case for our products. And we close the bracket, enter, and you see I get back number 2. Let me try to change the product here. If I choose number, or if I choose product D, then I should get back row number 4, right? Boom, and you see it's working. Let's also check C. Oh, sorry. C is number 3 and A is number 1. Perfect. Now we want to do the same for the column. So let me type in again, match, open the bracket, and now the search key for the column here is the quantity. So I want to select this one here, type in comma, and now we want to define the range. And where do we want to search this quantity? We want to search it here. And here's the same rule. We have to choose the same width as the index matrix. So fix it with F4, comma again, and now it's asking again for the search type. But this time we cannot search for the exact match because we don't have quantities from 1 to 1000 in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. So we have more like limits, and then you can choose either number 1 or -1. And in our example, we should use number 1 because you can read it here. If you use this number 1, then it finds the largest value less than or equal to the search key. So less or equal to would be 50, 20, 10, or 1. But as you can see here, the largest value of those numbers, which is 50. So let's type in 1 here, close the bracket and enter. And you see I get back the 4. So if I change it to 99, for example, it should be still $40. So it's still column 4. And if I go to 100, then it should jump over to the next column, which is number 5. Boom, and you see it worked, right? If I take 1500, for example, then we should get back column number 7. And you see it works pretty well. If I choose 1, we got back column 1. That makes sense. Awesome. So now we want to take those two match functions and insert them into our index function we defined here. So let's go firstly into our row function and select that match function without the equal sign. Then we copy it with Control C, escape. Then I go inside here and I take this number 2 here, select it and paste in our formula. Boom, so number 2 has gone and we have our match function. Let's press enter. You see it's still 40, that looks good. And now we take the match function of our column, choose it, select it, Control C, escape, and we go back into the index function, select the 4, and we remove the 4 and paste in our match function for the columns. So let me type in an enter here, and you see we got a price per piece of 100 because we got a number 1 here, right? And also here. So if I go back to 60 pieces, you see that we have a price per piece of 40, which was our initial example. Pretty nice. Let me do it one more. So let's choose product C, and let's say 1,200 pieces. Product C and 1,000 pieces are $100. Looks good. And now to calculate the total of that is just by going equal to, that's pretty simple, and take our price per piece and multiply it with our quantity. So this little star sign, select it, press enter, and now we see if we buy 1,200 products of product C, we get a price of $100 per piece, and multiplied with this quantity, we get back a total of this value. So if you want to add new products here and define new quantities, those cells are still empty. So now you have two ways to do that. You can either select those cells here and paste them into the cell, and do it every time you add a new one, or you can paste it inside all the cells, which doesn't look pretty good, right? Because we got those error messages. So what you want to do instead, let me remove it, is use the if function. And we want to say if our quantity field or our quantity cell is empty, then also our purchase price per piece and our total price should be empty. And to do that, we can just go in front of this function and put in an if function there. So let me go here, type in an if, and open the bracket, and it's asking for a logical expression. So we say if the quantity, let me click on it, equals 2 quotation marks, which means empty, then comma, also this value here, so this function should be empty, so just 2 quotation marks. And if that's not the case, then comma, the index function should be used. Let me close it with bracket and press enter. So let's go in again. So if I21, which is our quantity, is empty, then everything inside here is empty. And if that's not the case, we use our index function. And we will do the same for the total price. So we got this easy calculation here, and we said here if I21 equals empty, then empty, and we can just copy that, Control C, and we'll insert it in front of this formula. So it says also if our quantity is empty, then this cell is also empty. And if that's not the case, so if we got a quantity here, then we want to multiply our quantity times our price per piece. Let's close that with a bracket, enter. And now you can just select those functions, copy them, and paste them wherever you want. Boom. And you see it's empty here. But now if you add new products, let's say product A, product D, and product B, for example, then we can put in a quantity here, and you see all prices are there. But now you're probably wondering, why is this empty? It's just because if you go to product D, all the values are empty as well. So it just gives back a 0, right? So if we define for product D a value for 450 pieces, which is more than 200, let's define 20. Then you see it's also inside here. So now you got your nice calculation, and that's how you can use price tables for calculation by using the index and match function. Thanks for watching, and see you soon.